Now, okay, we'll move on to another prototype that you've shown this year.
Yeah.
And that's 4K.
Yeah.
Okay, now I just want to spill quickly for those watching. 4K is becoming more important now, not because people want 4K, but because deliverables, specifically if you're going to be touching on high dynamic range, all those deliverables are spec'd around 4K. So even if you think I don't need it, 4K doesn't really make any difference, fine, that's great. I don't disagree with you, but when you actually send the master off, the deliverable will be spec'd at 4K because it's part of the deliverable spec these days. So that's fine to up-res it, but you still probably want a pixel peak at the 4K resolution, so you need a 4K monitor. So you've got a prototype?
Yeah, we have a prototype, 31-inch. It's a true 4K, 4096 by 2160 resolution, 97% of DCI-P3 coverage. We've built this one primarily as a production monitor, but it's the same back-end design, the processing, the inputs that will be used on our larger monitors in the future. But what we've seen already is that while most of our actual operators are more than happy monitoring on a 24.5-inch OLED, and in fact most people that come to our booth say, is this 4K? Because the excellent contrast ratio gives you that sense of sharpness.
Better contrast gives you better sharpness.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, but what we've realized is that, a lot of times, especially in our production communities too, we have people say, hey, the agency or whatever has said, the client has said, I want a 4K display because we're shooting in 4K, we're delivering in 4K, so HD monitor's not good enough. Now, maybe they don't understand that this is actually going to look better, probably, but there's a real need for that. It's easier to say, yes, I have it, than argue about why HD is fine at this size. And honestly, there's a limited benefit to 4K at this size unless you're doing like compositing or something like that.
That's right.
But we are going that direction. We realize there's a need for it. The 31-inch is just showing that we have the technology to do all of this. But bigger units are certainly on the horizon from us, and we're definitely aiming to tackle all needs, HDR, 4K in one display. It's just going to take some time, and Flanders Scientific is, as you can tell by the way that we phrase things and what we show and we don't show, we're kind of a conservative company when it comes to that. We're not going to hype things as being true high dynamic range or show something that's kind of a half-baked product. High brightness is not HDR, and so we're making sure not to go down that road and simply have bright displays and claim they're HDR. We want great contrast, great color gamut.
You're not in with over-promise, under-deliver. That's not who you are.
No, absolutely. That's not what we do. It's not what we do at all. And sometimes, to our own detriment, because the hype is there and people are interested in it. I think half the people expected us to have HDR plastered all over our booth. But what we're showing is practical examples of what's here and now from us. But we're very tuned into that market need and are working very hard to get something that we feel is going to be a professional solution to target these needs. And as we were talking about earlier, one of the great things about Flanders is, half the questions we get are, okay, that's great that you're working on that, but what standard are you going to support? Well, we offer 3D LUT-based calibration. We also have custom 1D LUTs available. So you can do everything. Everything that's not going to be, licensed away from us and we're not going to have access to for political or business reasons is going to be available on these things. If you want PQ, if you want HLG, you name it, those are just different EOTFs. We can program those all in, calibrate for that. End users can calibrate with Lightspace or CalMan to those targets as well. So we will address all needs, as many as we can tackle with our display devices going forward. In fact, you can program PQ into this and do, again, 350 nit preview, but on set, maybe if you got PQ coming out of a camera, that's good enough to get at least a sense for what it might look like in post, and then in post you'll get just a lot more definition and highlights. So.
Thank you very much. Now,